Chosen one, now the heavens are cheering for you. The flow of time has accelerated, all boundaries are breaking down one by one. The destiny prepared for you is now unfolding before you without delay. The great moment that you have been waiting for in silence and preparing for with prayers has arrived. You are entering a period when everyone will watch in amazement and miracles will happen in a chain. Delays are over now, it is time to rise and take your rightful place. The whole universe is watching you with bated breath. Get ready, write 33 in the comments now. Don't just be a spectator, be a part of the story. With your support, we will become a giant family of 5,000 people. Subscribe now, turn on notifications and join us. Because you are at the center of these rapid changes. Just like a seed hidden deep beneath the soil, where sunlight cannot reach and the world has no clue it's there, sometimes the greatest strength is cultivated out of sight. Nobody walks by and admires a seed underground. Nobody stops to praise its struggle or notices how it pushes through the dark, stubborn earth, reaching for a day it's never seen. Yet, in that quiet darkness, unseen, uncelebrated, the seed is storing up every drop of rain, every ounce of warmth, every whispered promise of spring. That's how God works with those He has set apart. That's how resilience is shaped in the lives of the chosen. There are moments in your journey when it feels like you're buried and forgotten, but child of God, you are not lost, you are planted. While the world busies itself chasing attention and applause, the chosen ones are being prepared in the quiet corners, beneath the radar, far from spotlights and microphones. There's a holiness to obscurity, a sanctification in being set apart, and a power that only grows in the silence. You know what it's like to lie awake while the world sleeps, talking to God when nobody else would listen. You've poured your heart out to the heavens, letting your tears water dreams you couldn't even speak out loud. You walked through seasons where the air was thick with disappointment, and every step forward felt heavier than the last. There were nights when it seemed like your prayers disappeared into the ceiling, when fatigue set in so deeply you wondered if the promise would ever come. But you kept holding on, not because anyone told you to, but because something deep within refused to let go. See, others may have been building their empires, stacking bricks of ambition where all could see, but you were digging deeper, creating a well of faith that no drought could dry up. Every time you chose honesty over the easy way, every time you said yes to integrity and no to shortcuts, you were stretching spiritual roots beneath the surface. While others rushed to cross finish lines for the sake of applause, you became a master at waiting, nurturing patience like a gardener watches over new growth. Nobody saw you standing in the kitchen late at night, fighting discouragement with worship. Nobody saw how you bit your tongue and spoke blessings instead of curses when your heart ached. Nobody saw how you honored commitments when it would have been easier to quit. The truth is, the most powerful victories are won in secret. The greatest crowns are crafted when nobody is around to watch the gold being shaped in the fire. It's in the unseen trenches that God forges His warriors. He knows the weight you've carried, the sacrifices you've made, and the moments when you kept sowing kindness and hope when the ground looked barren. He saw the countless times you decided to do the right thing, even if it meant nobody clapped, nobody noticed, and nobody called your name. Let me tell you, the world might see a sudden rise, but heaven knows every silent step. When the day comes that the blessing blooms above the ground, people will call it overnight success, but God calls it the unveiling of roots that never wavered. The spotlight doesn't make you strong, the shadow does. The applause doesn't crown you, the anointing formed in the midnight hours does. You see, when God raises you up, it's not a fragile thing. The foundation has been laid deep in places no critic or naysayer can ever reach. You can walk boldly because your identity wasn't formed by flattery, but by fire. You aren't shaken when opinions shift because your approval was settled in the silence, not the crowd. Are you a story lover or a truth seeker? Subscribe and be both. You didn't just survive the obscurity, you were transformed by it. Like gold hidden beneath a mountain, you were refined and purified, your character forged in patience and faith. God was working when it felt like nothing was happening. He was preparing you for the moment when the world would finally see what He saw all along. Now, as the winds of change begin to move, as opportunities open up in places you never expected, remember this: Nobody else can take credit for what's about to blossom in your life. Your story can't be claimed by critics or credited to coincidence. The reward is coming not because you demanded it, but because you were faithful when it felt like nobody cared. Every struggle was a stepping stone. Every quiet act of faithfulness was a seed sown in sacred ground. When you chose peace over pride, when you kept loving in the face of rejection, when you pressed on when others gave up, you were watering a destiny that only God could see. And now, the fruit of your patience is coming to harvest. This is not just a turnaround. It's the fulfillment of a promise, the unveiling of what was always meant for you. No shadow or setback can dim the light that's breaking through now. The crown fits perfectly because it was measured in moments when nobody else was watching. What the world will see as sudden is really the result of every unseen yes, every private prayer, every midnight surrender. You aren't a product of applause. You are the evidence of endurance. You're not the sum of public praise, but the result of a private process, led by the hand of God who delights in those who trust Him when it's hardest. So step into this season with holy confidence. You're not here by accident, and you're not rising by accident. The crown you wear now was formed in the secret, lonely, hard places, and no one can take it from you. Let them see your breakthrough, but never forget the journey that prepared you for it. Just as the seed breaks through the soil after seasons of darkness, you're stepping into the sunlight of God's promise, because you grew where no one else was watching. Like a river that doesn't rush to meet the ocean, but takes its time carving canyons and nourishing valleys along the way, your path was always guided by a higher wisdom, even when the world mistook your waiting for wandering. Sometimes the most beautiful gardens are those that bloom late after the storms have passed, with roots that anchor deep into unseen reservoirs. That's how it's been for you, not left behind, but lovingly cultivated out of sight, guarded against shallow soil and the scorching heat of premature attention. There were seasons when it felt like everyone else was gathering their harvest, waving armfuls of success as they hurried past, while you stood in a field that looked empty to the naked eye. But the soil was never barren. It was simply working in secret, nurturing something more lasting, something that wouldn't be swept away by the first strong wind. Every delay became a shield, every closed door a blessing disguised as disappointment, every empty field a canvas for God's patience to do its quiet work. The world praises fast fruit, quick returns, and overnight fame. But God's timetable is tuned to eternity, not to headlines or trends. He knows that quick blooms fade in the heat, but those who wait, who trust through the long winters and silent seasons, become like oak trees, steady and unmoved, sheltering many beneath their branches. What looked like a detour was actually a divine detainment, a holding place where your gifts could ripen in peace, far from the noise and comparison that could have twisted your spirit out of shape. You may have watched others claim prizes that seemed meant for you. You may have clapped for friends who celebrated in the spotlight, and wondered if the world had forgotten the seeds you'd sown in faith. But you weren't forgotten. You were being reserved. Life itself was placing a hedge around your destiny, keeping out anything that might have trampled the fragile shoots of your purpose before they were strong enough to survive on their own. While others sprinted ahead, sometimes only to stumble when the way grew hard, you were learning how to abide. You discovered the rhythm of heaven, the patience that outlasts every season of doubt, and the perseverance to stand when it would have been easier to settle. Your roots went down so deep that even if the storm raged or the sun scorched, you wouldn't be moved. The beauty of your journey is that no drought, no delay, no denial can undo what God has buried and watered in the hidden places. Some doors closed gently, some slammed in your face, but every one of them was a signal that the timing wasn't right, not for punishment, but for protection. Life knew what you needed to become and wouldn't let you settle for anything less. The keys meant for your hand were never given away. They were set aside, waiting for the season when you would be ready to step forward and claim what was truly yours. Now, as you approach those doors, you find that they open not with struggle but with ease. The fit is perfect, the welcome is unmistakable, and the space inside feels like it was built for your footsteps. That's because your inheritance wasn't cobbled together in haste. It was carved out in the quiet, sacred places where your prayers took root and your faith grew strong. When you cross the threshold, there's no doubt that you belong. You'll see how every setback was a setup for something greater, every delay an investment in your future, every not yet God's way of saying, I'm working on something better. So take heart, chosen one. You were never overlooked. You were preserved. Your harvest is coming in its perfect time, and when it arrives, it will stand as a testament to the wisdom of waiting and the faithfulness of the one who never forgets his own. When others see you stepping into blessing, they'll marvel at the overnight change, but you'll know the years of quiet growth, the nights of silent trust, the strength forged in the waiting. And when your day comes, you won't have to force your way in or prove your worth, because the key fits only your hand, and the blessing was always yours from the very beginning. Imagine a lantern held out on a moonless night, its glow small but unwavering, a beacon in the great unknown, guiding every step long before the dawn even considers breaking the horizon. That's the kind of faith that carried you. You moved not because every answer was printed on a roadmap, but because the Spirit lit up a path one trembling footstep at a time. The urge to step forward came from somewhere deeper than reason. It was like the tide pulling you away from safe harbor, out into waters no one else could chart. There's a wisdom in walking by starlight, letting that gentle inner pull, sometimes as faint as a whisper, lead you across unmarked ground. When friends waited for confirmation and colleagues hesitated for guarantees, you were drawn by something no one else could see. Logic called it foolishness, comfort called it risky, but conviction won the day. The melody inside your chest was sometimes almost too quiet to catch, but it was yours alone, and you learned to trust it more than the clamor of opinions or the rules of caution. When you left the comfort of certainty, it was like stepping out of a warm house into the cool night, trusting that the next step would appear only after you'd taken it. That's the story of so many chosen ones, crossing deserts with no map, building arcs while the sky is clear, planting seeds in soil that others call barren. You carried faith as your compass, conviction as your traveling companion, and hope as your supply, never quite sure what waited ahead, but unwilling to stay put just because the crowd said so. This kind of journey isn't for the faint of heart. It's for those willing to risk being misunderstood, to endure the whispers of, "Why would you do that?" and "Aren't you afraid of falling?" It's for those who know deep down that sometimes you have to leave safe ground to discover the garden waiting on the other side of risk. Every act of obedience, each step out into the unknown, built a path only you could walk, paved not with answers, but with trust. Now, as blessings arrive, sometimes all at once, sometimes in gentle waves, people around you are astonished. They see the fruit and think it ripened overnight, unaware of the years spent tending invisible roots. The surge of momentum, the doors opening at just the right time, the favor pouring in like a summer rain, none of it is random, none of it is luck. It's the harvest of all the nights you kept moving by faith, all the mornings you rose even when hope felt threadbare, all the times you poured water into a well only God could see. What the world calls sudden, heaven calls scheduled. You're not being chased by favor, it's simply arriving along the road you already cleared by daring to move before anyone else saw a way. The acceleration in your life now is just the natural outworking of spiritual law. Those who plant in faith reap in abundance. Those who dare to leap when the ground looks shaky land on solid promise. The blessings have been catching up to the place you already staked in hope. So if someone wonders how it all happened so fast, tell them about the seasons of preparation, about the courage to listen when the voice inside was the only counsel you had, about the secret prayers and unseen leaps. Remind them, sometimes God calls you to move when everything around you says, wait. And when you answer that call, the miracles can't help but find you. The windfall of goodness isn't chasing you down. It's flowing along the trail of surrender and trust you blazed in the darkness, believing that even when you couldn't see the outcome was being prepared for you. Think of a field where seeds are sown not by accident, but by careful, loving hands, each one planted in faith, each one watered by the quiet tears and steady hope of long nights. When the harvest finally breaks through the earth, it might look to the world like magic, like sudden abundance, but those who know the journey understand. This crop was no lucky find. It's the sum of choices made in the silence, roots grown deep when no one else could see, and convictions held when the easier road whispered your name. Every story hides a secret. subscribe and become a seeker with us. There's a rhythm in the life of every chosen one that only heaven counts. The world may call it a stroke of luck or a twist of fate, but in truth, every blessing that's showing up now is the echo of every no spoken in secret. When shortcuts glittered and the crowds called your name, you chose instead the hard ground of truth, the narrow way, the slow work of character. You held back from false promises, resisted the quick wins, and let your yes be yes and your no be no, even when no one but God was listening. This isn't a windfall that came by chance. This is a garden tended in patience, a reward born out of 1,000 small sacrifices that the world never applauded, because the applause wasn't meant for those moments. The applause was waiting until you could stand tall in blessing without being carried away by pride. It waited until your spirit was strong enough to wear the crown without forgetting who gave it. Now, as favor comes and opportunities blossom, the elevation is not about perfection, but about sincerity, the real conversations with God, the honest wrestling in lonely places, the commitment to hold your ground when the pressure to perform was almost overwhelming. Every prayer whispered in solitude, every humble act done with no promise of return, every decision to choose love when bitterness seemed easier, all of that has built the foundation under your feet now. The scales have tipped, not because the universe spun your way on a whim, but because divine justice cannot overlook a heart that stays true when no one's watching. Your life is not a story of climbing over others to reach the top. It's the testimony of someone who learned from the valley, gathered wisdom from every setback, and rose, not with the arrogance of a conqueror, but with the humility of a servant who has been trusted with more. So when you look around and see the shift, when blessings find you and doors swing open, know this: it's not random, and it's not just your turn on the wheel. It's the harvest of honor, the fulfillment of a promise, the answer to prayers you might have forgotten you even prayed. You're standing now in a place that was always meant for you, and no one can dismiss this moment as luck, because you're living proof that what's established in secret will always be undeniable in the light. And let this be a reminder to every heart that wonders if faithfulness in the shadows matters. God's timing is precise, and His justice is sure. What's done in the quiet places is never lost. The elevation you see is simply the world catching up to what heaven already wrote in your favor. It's like tending a garden beneath the moon, watering seeds in the hush, pulling weeds when no one sees, and nurturing hope in the cool, unseen hours when the world is sleeping. That's how your story has grown. In an age where everyone chases the spotlight, you became a caretaker of roots, choosing to deepen your foundation in the soil of obscurity rather than seeking applause on the surface. While others ran to be seen, you stayed steady where only heaven watched, shouldering burdens no audience could understand, holding broken hearts together when your own felt worn thin. You offered encouragement when your own reserves ran dry. You spoke life into others even when your own soul needed reviving. Storms didn't skip your house, but you learned to weather them with quiet resolve, picking up the pieces in the night and praying strength into mornings that came heavy with uncertainty. The tears you wiped away alone, the prayers you whispered with tired hope, the sacrifices nobody will ever know, all of it poured into a vessel that can't be manufactured or bought at any price. And now, as the season shifts, doors open not because you called for applause or campaigned for recognition, but because you have grown past the need for validation. The oil poured out in your private struggle wasn't for the show, it was pressed for a sacred purpose. What you carried in your silent hours is being raised up in the light, not to make you a spectacle, but to be a living sign that what's built in the dark will bloom in the sun. Your hidden wilderness has turned into a garden bursting with color, and the fragrance of what you survived rises as a beacon to others who are still sowing in their own shadows. Each secret prayer, each quiet surrender, each battle won without fanfare, these have cultivated a strength that can sustain blessing and responsibility in the open. The legacy of your perseverance is now a harvest that doesn't just feed your soul, but inspires all who encounter it. Let this be an encouragement. God saw every silent sacrifice. The world may have missed your midnight victories, but heaven never did. Now, the increase you're walking into is not just a personal celebration, it's a testimony. The roots that went deep in the dark are the reason your fruit can endure in the light. You are proof that the hidden work is holy work, and the time spent unseen is never wasted. The influence you now wield is not a performance, but a promise fulfilled, that those who grow strong in secret will be established in strength for all to see. Imagine your life as a riverboat after a long night's journey. At dawn, the fog lifts, and suddenly, the waters that once seemed calm now run fast and wild. The wind fills your sails, and it feels like you could race the sun itself. That's what it's like when favor pours in and momentum takes hold. Everything moves at once, and you feel the thrill of the journey speeding up beneath your feet. But even the steadiest captain knows you can't just ride the current and expect to reach your destination. You have to steer with wisdom, keep your hands steady on the wheel, and watch for rocks just beneath the surface. This season of sudden progress is a gift, but it also carries its own tests. The world may shower you with invitations and open doors, each one looking like the next big thing, but not every window thrown open is meant for you to step through. Some routes will take you off course. Some alliances, no matter how promising, aren't anchored in your purpose. Now is when your prayer life becomes your compass and humility becomes your anchor rope. Don't be fooled by the applause or mistake movement for true advancement. It's easy to get swept up in the noise, thinking the more you do, the further you'll go, but sometimes the most powerful move is to pause and ask, Lord, is this mine to accept? Hold on to the discipline that carried you through the shadows. Let discernment be the lantern you carry onto this brighter path, lighting your steps so you don't stumble in the glare of attention. Remember how long it took to build what you have: years of quiet work, faithfulness when nobody saw, and patience in the wilderness. Now that the world is watching, don't abandon the process for the thrill of quick results. Honor every opportunity with prayer, weighing it on the scales of divine wisdom rather than human approval. In this hour of rapid movement, strategy matters more than ever. Influence is sacred. It must be handled with as much care as you gave to your solitude. Don't let excitement make you careless, or the crowd distract you from your calling. The river may be swift, but you are not powerless in its current. You are equipped with discernment as your anchor and discipline as your rudder, able to navigate by heaven's direction. If you can do this, if you keep your heart soft, your ears tuned to God's voice, and your priorities rooted in prayer, then this acceleration won't carry you away. Instead, you'll carry the blessing forward, making your influence count not just for today's applause, but for tomorrow's legacy. Let the speed remind you of the miracle, but let wisdom ensure you arrive at the shore that was meant for you all along. Imagine a sunrise cracking open the horizon after a long, starless night, the kind of light that doesn't just end the darkness, but rewrites the story of the whole sky. That's where you're standing right now, not at the finish line, but at the edge of something brand new. The climb so far wasn't meant to put you on display, but to show you what you're made of, to turn wounds into wisdom and waiting into strength. You didn't make it here by forcing doors open or hustling your way through loopholes. It was surrender, plain and simple. A steady hand letting go so a greater hand could take the lead. The journey asked for trust, not tricks. Every wrong turn and closed door wasn't a setback, but a lesson, chiseling your faith into something unbreakable. Let's picture it like this. You've spent years walking through a foggy forest, lantern in hand, not sure if anyone even noticed the path you carved. But now, as the mist lifts and the sun pours down, you see a trail of footprints behind you, proof that your courage was never just for you. Suddenly, the gates open wide, and it's not just an invitation for you to enter. It's a call for every soul still searching in the shadows to follow the glow you've set blazing. This next chapter isn't about reaching a peak for your own applause. It's about leaving lanterns behind, so the next one coming up the trail knows they aren't alone. With every decision, you're planting seeds for grandchildren you may never meet and showing neighbors who lost their way that dawn is possible. What once seemed like endless silence is turning into a chorus of gratitude, and that feeling of being cut off is dissolving as your journey weaves together lives you never imagined touching. You're not at the story's end, you're at the chapter where the hero discovers the adventure was never about climbing the mountain for the view, but about lighting the path for others on the way up. Every valley you crossed, every prayer you whispered, every lonely hour was God laying the groundwork for a field that's about to bloom for a whole community. And the pages ahead? They're unwritten, but you can feel the author's pen in motion, sketching blessings where there used to be loss. Imagine a lighthouse standing on the edge of a stormy coast, its light sweeping across the waves, reaching ships lost in the dark. That's the kind of presence you're stepping into now. The universe didn't bring you here for your own benefit alone. As the trumpet sounds and the ancient gates swing open, you're being called to walk with the confidence of someone who carries the legacy of countless journeys, battles, and prayers in their footsteps. This mountain in front of you isn't an obstacle, it's a sacred platform. Like a sanctuary built on high ground, it's meant to display not your own achievements, but the faithfulness of the one who led you through every valley and storm. The mountain says to the world, "Hope rises here." It bears witness that the shadows cannot bury the destiny God has planted within you. Your climb is a testimony, not just of your own endurance, but of the resilience available to every soul watching your ascent. This isn't just your victory lap. It's a procession for every lost heart who ever wondered if sunrise would find them. Your story is now a lamp on the hillside, a signal fire in the wilderness. Each step upward isn't just a move toward your own fulfillment. It's an invitation for others to believe that miracles happen in ordinary lives, that strength can sprout in the cracks, and that love has the power to call the lonely out of hiding. Picture a sunrise breaking over the horizon after a long, cold night, its warmth flooding the land, stirring the sleeping seeds awake, painting the world in new colors. That's what this moment is for you and for everyone watching your journey. No more blending into the darkness, no more letting your light be hidden under layers of old fear or doubt. This is your dawn. This is the season when what God placed inside you finally steps into the open, not for your glory, but as a signpost for everyone still searching for morning. You are being set in place like a lamp on a stand, not to showcase your own strength, but to illuminate the way for others who have forgotten what hope looks like. The trials that threaten to snuff out your spirit have only made your flame brighter. Like a gardener tending a hidden vineyard, you have cared for your calling in the silence, trusting that someday, fruit would come. Now, the branches are heavy with abundance. What was once a solitary effort has grown into a feast for many. The impact of your journey will echo through families, neighborhoods, and generations. Where you once felt like a lone traveler with nothing but your faith, you have become a wellspring. Fresh water for the thirsty, cool shade for the weary, encouragement for the discouraged. Your scars are not a record of pain but of survival, and they shimmer as reminders that God wastes nothing. Every sorrow, every setback, every silent prayer has become part of your harvest. Now, others will eat from the trees you planted in seasons when all you had was faith. You are not here to be admired as an unreachable hero, but to serve as living proof that ordinary people can become vessels for extraordinary hope. You're not just fulfilling your own destiny, you're laying stepping stones for the feet that follow, each one blessed, each one empowered by the example of what persistence and belief can yield. So let this season find you bold. Let your story blaze as a living testimony that no winter can hold back the spring God has promised. You are not just a survivor, you are a sign that the light wins. Stand tall in the sunlight, chosen one. The orchard of your life is ready to feed more than you ever dreamed, and the fruit of your endurance is a blessing poured out for all who wander in from the cold. Imagine a lighthouse rising out of the mist on a stormy coast, a steadfast glow that breaks through the night, steady and unwavering, guiding ships that have lost their way. That's what your calling has become. The winds may have howled, the waves may have battered, but now you stand illuminated not by your own strength, but by a promise planted in you from the beginning. This isn't just about finding your own safe harbor. You have become a beacon, a point of orientation for anyone drifting in the fog, searching for a sign that land is near and morning is coming. Hungry for timeless wisdom? Hit subscribe and feed your soul. There's a reason your journey carved out courage deeper than your fears and lifted you above every old regret. The trials you weathered weren't merely obstacles to endure, but stepping stones that taught your feet how to climb higher, so high that no shadow could follow you. When you open your arms now, it's not just for your own celebration, but to gather in the ones who thought hope had passed them by. Your perseverance has become a shelter, your resilience, a sanctuary. The beauty of your story is not in the victories you keep for yourself, but in the light you offer freely. What started as survival now grows into abundance. A harvest that overflows, ready to feed the hungry and restore the brokenhearted. Each step you take forward radiates encouragement to those still wandering in the night, drawing them out of despair and into the promise of a new day. You're not only a survivor, you're a gatherer of lost dreams, a cultivator of second chances. With every move you make, you leave a trail of hope, lanterns set along the path for those who come after. It's a divine appointment that turns your breakthrough into someone else's signpost, your answered prayer into a seed of faith for another. This is the hour to rise without shrinking back, to carry the light boldly, to remind the world that no ending is final when grace still speaks. You are the living promise that darkness never gets the last word. Your life is a field where hope grows wild and generous, blessing not just you but everyone willing to follow the glow. The story isn't over, the world is still waiting for the light you're called to share. And as you answer this call, you transform survival into a harvest so abundant, it becomes a legacy of blessing that endures long after your steps fade from view.